Oh, hang on. Okay, we're
Hey,
live now. Let's see if the sound is okay or not.
is it broken?
Is it broken? If anyone does join in chat, please let us know if it's broken. Ah. Okay, I'm now watching myself to hear.
That's always an interesting way to play the game.
This,
Oh, it
this,
sounds good.
it sounds all right, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're in. I think we're in. All right. Yeah, we are live.
Hooray!
We are live. I will throw the thing around. Right, guys. Thank you for joining this second episode of Bugwatch today. Um, I am your boy Swissley. I'm coming here to talk to you about another wonderful episode about Tyranids. Um, and this is my boy JP. JP, how are you getting on?
I'm doing very well now. We're back for a second time.
Sweat, sweat, sweat. Yeah, all right. So we have got a really great show for you today. Eventually, now we're here, and we will be talking about such things as the Coventry GT, a massive event in the UK that has like a 3 day event and a 2 day event. I'll be talking about the 3 day event because that's what I'm going to. I've broken down all the factions that are going. We are looking at all the different Tyranid lists that are there, and it's going to be great. But yes, so I'm really looking forward to that. We're also going to talk about the wonderful 18 Tyrant Guard list that did very well at the weekend previously. So good to hear about that. And yeah, but yeah, John, how have you been doing?
I've been doing very well. Very busy. As we were talking about before, and no one could probably hear us. Talking about all the work I've been doing with some alternative strategies within Tyranids.
Well, oh, hang on. We have to set up this meme again, right? Hang on 1 second. I have to do all this. Okay, 1 sec, 1 sec.
Set up the meme. Don't let
Yeah.
your memes be dreams.
Okay, right. Share square. Okay. Guys, I want you to know the first show was just unbelievable. Like it was so good. I can't. I'm actually sad that you missed it. But it's not our fault. Um, blame the system. Right. Yes. So John, what's your alternative? What's your alternative strategies?
Well, I've been painting up models and units that work well in Vanguard Onslaught.
What? Vanguard Onslaught, John? But that's
Exactly.
not what you play. You play triple Maleceptor Invasion Fleet. Is there
Yeah,
something?
mostly.
Are these models for a friend? Is it for someone else to play Tyranids with?
No, they actually are for me. As much as a surprise as it might come to everyone, I am actually going to be playing and trying out some Vanguard Onslaught at some point.
My God, guys! Breaking news: JP has separated from Vanguard Onslaught. We don't know who cheated on the other one, but it feels like John made a play for Vanguard Onslaught and it's all gone wrong. Are you excited to be playing Vanguard Onslaught?
Yeah, very excited. Trying to do an alternative strategy. I was finding I do obviously enjoy the old monster armies, but I was finding that at times it was not the play patterns were not working out the way I wanted them to. I wasn't able to kind of pick up wins in certain scenarios, but I was also finding one of the key things, which we did talk about before, but I'll talk about again now. One of the big problems I was finding with the big monster list, Tyranid lists, is I'm really struggling to get into my opponent's deployment zone and into the quarters to score all the different points. I play kind of. I know we've spoken in the past and said, "Oh, I play quite aggressive and stuff." I've actually been playing a bit more passive, trying to just like make sure I get loads of points and stuff. And it has been affecting the game because I've played a lot of armies that can kill Maleceptors and stuff quite easily. And I've just been feeling that I wanted to try something a bit different. So Vanguard Onslaught was obviously one of the ways. It just feels a bit more of a list that can attack at speed, whereas monster lists take a long time to get there. So I'm trying to find a bit of a different axis. Try and playing it at the teams event in November. So yeah, currently working towards that. Got a baseline list that I need to try out and modify a little bit, but yeah, we're getting there.
Very cool. Very cool. No, you're right. I think especially with the new UKTC terrain, it's harder than ever for monsters to get into your opponent's deployment zone, given that each opponent is given a castle to defend essentially. I actually quite like it, the new terrain, but obviously it's a funny one. I think GW terrain really benefits monsters, and that's why you see it a lot more in the United States of America.
Yes.
But and you see a lot of lists like the 18-man Tyrant Guard list we'll talk about in a minute, which I think just do better in the States because it's just as easier to navigate terrain as well. Whereas we have very good staging terrain for fast-moving infantry. And if you know, it's a bit of a meme in the 6++ show to discuss fast-moving infantry, but it is definitely awesome. And yeah, I mean, Vanguard Onslaught has plenty of that. I took it to an event recently and did awful with Vanguard Onslaught. I just, it just, I went into like combat armies and just got ruined. So it was just a bit of a tough one. But no, it is a very fun army once you get going with it. I think it just is it's very unforgiving, and there's lots of reps required. But I think you can absolutely get there. Who have we got in chat? So yeah, big thank you to Martin and Chris for pointing out our audio was rubbish, and we've fixed now. Thank you very much, chaps. Vort2877 says hello, chaps. Oh look, it's the one member of 6++ that wasn't in Saffron Walden. Yeah, no, because team events are just not my thing. Not a big fan. And he's asking you for a full Vanguard breakdown, JP. We will be. We're going through a list actually. There's a Coventry that's taken Vanguard Onslaught, I think. Don't know if it's any good. I think we'll find out at the weekend. But yeah, Vanguard Onslaught is certainly interesting. There's plenty of variety in the list you can take. I would look at a video I did when I spoke to. Oh my god, my brain's going to explode. I know what his name is on Discord. It's Calenzius, who took the Harrispecs and in Vanguard Onslaught and did very well with it in America. I think he went 5-1 or won a GT or something. So definitely one to look at there. I did a Vanguard Onslaught breakdown when I played him for 4 months. They're very good. So everyone's asking JP, can you take 3 Maleceptors in a Vanguard list? Is that possible?
You can, technically you are able to take them, and I will be taking somewhere between 2 and 3 exocrines and some number of other monsters as well. Definitely going to be not playing. Definitely going to be giving my opponent something to think about with the monster contingent.
Absolutely. And as John dives out of Invasion Fleet and into Vanguard Onslaught, I decide white bread is my favorite type of bread, and I dive into Invasion Fleet as well. So I'll be talking about my Invasion Fleet list that I'm taking this weekend. Cool. But before we do that, let's change the old screens around. Boom. And then boom. So we have a couple of events. Well, I have a couple of events I just wanted to make you aware of. One of them is my event, which is the Outriders RTT in Milton Keynes in the UK on the 9th of November. Really nice event. It'd be lovely if you came. There's really good price support. So if you fancy winning an RTT and getting like 60 quid's worth of stuff, on average is about that much, come along. We've also got the East Midlands Slam RTT in Irchester, which is run by my friend Ben Piddington, and that's on the 2nd of November. You get a free sausage sandwich when you arrive, guys. So, I mean, not a lot of events will do that for you. So please come. That's really cool. And it's actually a good event as well. All UKTC terrain as well. So you can get those reps in for those UKTC events. John, I'm having a great time, right? I have got 4 events in 5 weeks. It's like wow. The old days. It's all come back. I know. I'm having a great time.
Back to normal.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm back to normal. I think this is a quick run. Right. First of all, I wanted to talk about this 18 Tyrant Guard list. So I've put the link to this chap's video in the description of this video. Or if I don't know if this has actually come up on the original video or not, we'll find out. But on the original video, the link to this is on there. This is Ruben, and he won a GT with 18 Tyrant Guard, and in this video he talks about each of the matchups and the list. Go and check this video out because he talks quite well about like how the list functions and stuff. It's a really interesting one. So for those listening, let me tell you what's in the list. So we've got a Hive Tyrant with Synaptic Control for -1 damage. We've got a Neuro Tyrant with Power of the Hive Mind, and we've got the Swarm Lord. Now these to steal, I won't go fully into it because Ruben's video explains it very well, but these are Ruben's main threats. So he gets them into the middle of the board, and then they do Chop Suey or Flamey on their opponents. Activating the Neuro Tyrant several times, or trying to activate it several times with Overwatch, and then shooting in your own turn to get the most out of it. He's then got 20 termagants. He does go into why that is, but I can't remember what it is at the moment. We've got a Biovore, a Haruspex, which is Distraction Carnifex. We've got 2 Lictors, a Psychophage. I wonder what the Psychophage is doing. Oh yeah, he's given a 6 up Feel No Pain to 2 Tyrannofexes and 18 Tyrant Guards. He quite candidly talks about which is the best profile on his Tyrant Guard. He's unsure, so I wonder. I think he might give an opinion at the end of the video. But honestly, guys, a really good video to listen to, and he talks very candidly about his games. Very interesting. John, what do you reckon about 18 Tyrant Guard?
Oh, I think it is a very Chad strategy. I do love it. I do really appreciate it. Like, there are going to be tournaments you go to where your opponent's going to look on it and just go like, what are these things and what do they do? And then they walk across the board and goes, couldn't actually kill any of these things. So I definitely think they're pretty good. I do like them a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about them in our what needs to go down in points because they're rubbish video. So he's made us look like fools. I still think they're very expensive for what they do. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting one. I like the idea of getting that Neuro Tyrant in the middle of the board and multiple activations, but with they're only OC1. It's like a wall of chads. But man, if your opponent has AP1, you're on 4 armor saves, and that makes me scared. But hey ho, really good video to watch, guys. Go and have a look and see what you think. All right, let's get on to the next bit. All right, the Coventry GT. So we're going to talk about the Coventry GT. As I say, everyone's interested in what the new meta is going to look like. So I thought this would be a bit of a taste of what you can expect. Or people vote with their feet. They bring good lists to this. What is it? Yeah, let's talk about that. It is a 3-day and a 2-day event in the same hall. There's also Horus Heresy and there's like Sigma on. But I mean, really, who cares? They're just lesser games. It's 8 for me, and I'll be playing in the 3-day. It's 8 games for the 3-day GT. Ed Watts is playing in the 3-day, and Ben from our team is in the 3-day as well. We've got a couple of players in the 2-day. We've got Rob Kimpton in the 2-day, and Franco, the Demon Lord, is in the 2-day as well. So it's going to be really good. I've been to this event once before, 2 years ago, at the 8-game one again. I went 4-4, so I'm looking to improve on that. But guys, honestly, because this is a lunatic event of 8 games, you get some of the best players in the UK coming. There's like that time I went and got a 4-4, I played 2 Team England players and a hopeful, I would say, for Team England. I was like, wow, like this is hard work. So I'm looking to get better than a 4-4. I'll tell you what my prediction is for what I'm going to do in the next slide. But yeah, and it's all on UKTC terrain, which is all changed. You can look at that picture, but it's not the same as that picture now. That's the old terrain. So yeah, there's a full pack available. If you are interested, put it in the comments and I'll put a link. But yes, 8 games, lots of fun. Lots of time.
It is a great event. I've done it twice and have had a huge amount of fun. Like, I think if you're serious about if any of you are like serious about grinding tournaments and like starting to sort of take those steps forward with that, I think this is potentially one of the best ways to do that. Because it is 8 games. It's a lot of Warhammer to play, and I found it really helped my mental and my ability to focus through a lot of Warhammer. Just because like when you've played 8 games, 5 does feel a lot easier. Yeah.
So that's funny, actually. I've got a friend who bought a ticket to this. He is a Drakari main, and he only has Drakari. And he bought this ticket, and then the data slate came in, and his list went up 130 points. So he's a sad boy, and now he's going to borrow my World Eaters for this event. But interestingly, after this event, he will have played at least 10 games with World Eaters because he's having 2 practice games and then the 8 games at this weekend. Which 10 games is significant, right? So he's almost going to know that faction inside out. So just quite interesting. Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. People think you get tired and stuff, and you'll see some of the interesting things that come out in the faction breakdowns. There's one faction that stands out as very overrepresented versus normal, and I wonder why that is. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But of course, you wouldn't want to take a crazy list to the event, would you? That would be stupid. Like, over 100 models, but we'll talk about that in a minute as well. So the Coventry GT faction breakdown. So you've got three armies here that are on 12. So this is like This is mostly correct. There might be a one either way of the actual number, but I counted it, and I was very dehydrated when I was counting. So these are generally correct. But there's 3 detachments joint for first. We've got CSM, Guard, and World Eaters.
Interesting.
Interesting. I think World Eaters is there because, and this is no slight on the army, I collect them. It's my second army. I love them. But I think it might be one of the factions you can take through 8 games reasonably well, right, without your head exploding, because it's a fairly reasonable what would you call them, like routines during the game, right? So player patterns that you would just can repeat and repeat and repeat. There's not tons of variance there, in my humblest opinion. What do you reckon of Guard, CSM, and World Eaters, John?
I mean, CSM seem to be great still. I know they got hit a little bit. I still think the double Accursed Cultist builds or Liam VSL's more sort of MSU style lists haven't really changed with the patch, but I think that potentially some of their harder matchups got better for them, like Thousand Suns getting not canned, but definitely getting knocked down the pecking order probably doesn't hurt just with the amount of morsels that they can do. So I think CSM have definitely benefited. Guard have always been kind of on the uptick recently, and then World Eaters is just the press the button for 8 games, and I can imagine some people picking that kind of for the mental side of it. But no, I think Guard and CSM, being the top faction, CSM I'm less surprised by. Definitely Guard being more of a surprise.
Yeah, CSM I actually find is a terrifying matchup. I think they just obviously it's kind of like Invasion Fleet, right? They just choose sustained or lethals and then maybe take some mortals off the back of it.
Yeah.
Probably re-roll it because they have an icon, right?
Yes.
And I whenever I've played CSM, like I know Tom Lohman in our team has, I've played him a couple of times with CSM. Just can easily ruin Tyranids. Like it just push into you, and then it's really hard work. Guard, I think Guard are an interesting one. Obviously, they've got this new unit that's doing very well. They don't have the Bullgrin anymore. They have Ogrins. Let me tell you something. Ogrins are not Bullgrins. They really are not. they fall over way easier. So just watch out for that. I think it's going to be interesting because you'll be able to push into Guard a little bit more. And obviously they'll be able to score still because they've got this funky new unit. But I think you'll be able to push in, touch things, and then try and play around that. You've got World Eaters, you've got Sisters there as well. So Sisters still doing very well. There's a few more Hallowed Martyrs, but I briefly looked into a couple of the detachments, and there's still plenty of Bringers of Flames in there. So I guess you're just taking a couple of 100 points less or a couple of units less, and still playing that really strong game. And then what do you think to this? I don't know if you've looked at any of the Blood Angel stuff, but the Blood Angels, 8 players taking the new detachments.
Is that the Angelic Host one?
I saw one. I didn't click on loads of them, but I saw one that was Angelic Host. So I can imagine there's a few more.
Yeah, no, definitely. I haven't really seen too much of what Blood Angels are moving towards now with the changes.
Mephiston in every list, I imagine.
Oh yeah, I mean they were saying that he's a pretty robust character now.
Yeah. Loan up, stops you falling back.
Yeah, it's pretty terrifying.
Like pretty good in combat too. Yeah, pretty cool. And then we've got Dark Angels there to be stubborn, to essentially be custodies. And then we've got Necrons. The Necron lists I looked at were mostly Hypercrypt still. So that's still featuring very heavily. Turns out when you can teleport wherever you want on the board, that's pretty good. We then have Tyranids with 7 players. We have Custodies with 5. We have Death Guard with 5. GSE with 5, which I think is every GSE player in the country except Tom Lohman. We've got Space Wolves at 5 as well. So they've taken a big hit, right?
Yeah.
Eldari at 5. So some people venturing back there, including the Goonhammer James Grover. So I tend to play him at events, so that'll be interesting. 4 AdMech players, so that's I think doubled their representation. Hey, let's go AdMech. And then Demons taking a hit, Drakari on 4 as well, Grey Knights on 4, lots on 4. Imperial Knights on 4, my worst enemy, Imperial Knights. Orcs, Tau, and Votan again all on 4. T-Suns with 3 players. That's nice to hear, isn't it? It's a good chance I might avoid them.
I definitely think the one that surprises me in that is the Votan and Tau numbers. Like they didn't get hit massively. They're still really good armies.
Yeah, the Tau lists that I did click on was Monkar. I was looking to see if there was any Horde. I was wondering if anyone was taking Crew. I didn't see any, but that could still well be a thing.
Okay.
Votan are just good, man. And I'm
Yeah.
glad to see only 4 Votan. When you see my list, you'll understand. And then we've got on 2 each, we've got Agents of the Imperium, generic Space Marines. I've seen one Ultramarines list. It didn't even have Gulliman in, even though
Really?
he went down like 75 points or something.
I think they're just playing around how good Ventress now is for the points.
Yeah, probably. And then Chaos Knights and Black Templars on 2 players as well. So yeah, I think the big surprise for me is World Eaters there being that high up, especially because they essentially just took nerfs. The problem is when you nerf World Eaters list, they probably had 20 points spare anyway. So
True.
you cannot get a 2,000 point list with World Eaters. You have to end up with like 1975 or 1980 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Before we carry on, let's have a look at the chat. See who's in there. We've got Sylvester of Terror. Hi, hello. We've got the Doom Melon saying hello. Good to see you, Doom Melon. Yeah, Sylvester of Terror saying why not stick with Dark Elder. I think it's for my friend. I think it's just sometimes you practice with a list and then it gets nerfed and you're just like, oh, I just kind of want to change. So I waved my Lord of Skulls in his face and he was like, oh, okay, I'll take that. So he's having a good time practicing with that at the moment. We've got Martin Lawing in the chat saying that's why he hates Grey Knights because his head's spinning by the end of it. Doommelin talking about World Eaters being custodies. Yeah, pretty much. And then 5 GSE is too much for me. They are very scary now.
Yes.
Played them 3 times last week, which is the most time. I think that's the most I've ever played GSE ever. And the combat one, guys, is no joke. It's actually more like Drakari than Drakari is like Drakari. It's hiding transports behind walls, jumping out, smacking things to death. The problem is, once you've killed them, they come back to life, and it's scary. I think the Outrider's a bit more winnable, maybe. Unless, obviously, it depends on the pilot, but the Outrider one feels a lot less compelling compared to the melee Gene Stealers.
Okay.
Yeah, personally.
Interesting.
Yeah, so let's look at the next one. Yeah, so it's just some other things that I quite like looking at. So I'm always interested to see how many power armor factions there are because that's one of the things that kind of makes me think about what lists to take.
Yeah.
So 50%, nearly 50% of the factions taken are power armor. And then Xenos, one of the things that is interesting about Xenos is they tend to have a lower leadership than, or more susceptible to leadership shenanigans than Imperium armies. So yeah, Xenos at 28%, non-Xenos at 72%. Which I thought Xenos would probably have a better, more players, right? I thought we'd have more Orcs. Yeah. I thought we'd have more Tau, maybe with Kroot. Yeah, but not so far. Tyranids took a big hit, I think, because Tyranids are usually up there with the most played factions. And actually, Tyranids did quite well in the data slate, so it's surprising not to see as many there.
Agreed.
And then a broad look at melee focus. So this is all very broad, but it was very much, I mean, you hear these stories about the UKTC being very shooty, right? Mm-hmm. And it is, there are angles. There's less than there were before, thank God. But it is quite still a shooty arena. But nearly 40% are melee-focused armies, which is actually something I'm slightly concerned about for my list because of my my ability to play around it. But we'll see. So yeah, let's talk about my list. Whoa, lots of words on a screen. This is a very wordy screen. Let me just, I wonder if I can hide.
Oh, what detachment is it?
I've just realised that I mute myself when I hide the screen. When am I going to learn, guys? I'm just trying to move us so you can see us. Oh dear. Right, let's go. Oh, there we go. I think they can still hear us now because our heads are still blue, so that's fine. Yeah, so you can see that, a Neuro Tyrant, Tervigan with adaptive biology, obviously, a T11, 16 wounds, 2-up armor saver, beastie with a 5-up feel no pain, and that turns into a 4-up is pretty good. Old this lad John will devour us all.
Trying
Thank
to
you
read
for
the
that.
army list.
Then we've got Old One Eye. If you can't hear us now, please tell us. Yeah, we've got Old One Eye there. I'll spoil the surprise. He is with 2 Carnifexes. We've got 4x20 Termagants, all with spines and strangles because I love re-rolling wounds. We've then got a Biovore because one of the things that I find with this list is once you move up, you do leave a lot of space behind you. So being able to screen all that's very useful, especially against all these silly teleporty factions. I've got 2 Exocrines because you don't leave home without at least 2. I've got 1 Lictor, 2 Rupture Effects, and Venom Throps. So the strengths of the list is obviously tons of regenerable OC, which I'm a big fan of. Even when I was playing in Unending Swarm, it's what I really, really enjoyed. Some of the shenanigans you can pull there. I like that this list can kill things. It's got 2 Rupture Effects, 2 Exocrines, and all One Eye. Oh, and just the elephant in the room. This is Sam Pope's list, except with a couple of bits removed out, about 400 points removed out, and Old One Eye and his friends put in. The reason why that is, because they are the stars of the show for my money, is because of UKTC terrain. What you find is on the maps, it's split in 2, right? So if you look at Mission 1 on the UKTC terrain pack, on the left-hand side, it's like a castle. You've got 2 pieces of terrain. One of them goes like straight through the middle of your deployment zone. Like it's a line in your deployment zone. So monsters find it very hard to get around that. And when you have, obviously the Termagants can get through, that's no problem. But what I needed was a threat on the right-hand side of the board. And I had a Hive Tyrant in Sam had a Hive Tyrant in the list. And he had, I can't think what the other thing was, like a Pyrovore and stuff. So I just binned all that off and got all One Eye and his friends. They can sit on that right-hand side of the board and just make a beeline for my opponent's deployment zone, to be quite honest with you. So I tried that in a practice game. It went very well. But one of the things I was lacking was Synapse, because on that side of the board, I couldn't put a 5 at Feel No Pain on Old One Eye and his friends, which is really, really cool if you do that. And which answers Christopher Richardson's question in the chat, why the Neurotyrant. The Neurotyrant's on that side because he's got a reasonably big base. He has a decent Flamer that can just overwatch anyone who comes down in that area. He is good for the Shadow in the Warp at some point during the game, so he can hang about. He can come out later and be a couple of OC. I think it's 3 OC off the top of my head. But most importantly, he can reach out 18 inches and give all One Eye and his friends some Synapse. And then they can get the 5 at Feel No Pain. And that all the screening, I think, was a good strength of the list, is, because you're taking over most of the board against things like Hypercrypt, Grey Knights, maybe these Aquilons, if I can screen them out with boys, are going to find it hard to kind of find space to go. So we shall see. But I feel like the strengths, the weaknesses is the keyword sustained. That is a bit of a nightmare. Just what I was just talking about with Votan, one of the things I hate in this against Termagants, obviously, is the Terminators that have all the blast. And then they have sustained and things like that randomly, right? So big, all that, not a big fan. I don't have as many Lictors as I would like. I would love to, but I could not squeeze one in the list. Knights, which is just my mortal enemies, I just always lose to Knights. And then managing melee armies, which I think is something that just has a simple answer, which is you only let them touch 1 unit of Termagants. But sometimes just pulling that off is very difficult without Gargoyles, because I find Gargoyles are really good at directing people in a direction, and then you can start to just put 1 unit towards them. If you're trying to screen your entire deployment zone, especially if you're on Dawn of War or sweeping engagement, things like that, just like having that 1 unit of 20 just like spread out isn't always easy to do given the terrain you have. And then on the cutting room floor, I did leave a Hive Tyrant, Swarmlord, or a Winged Hive Tyrant. I don't mind these. I think Sam had a Winged Hive Tyrant, if I'm right, or he might have a normal Hive Tyrant. But either way, -1 to the attacks of your opponent's units is quite good. It's not great on UKTC terrain. I've never been happy with it, but I can see the benefit. A Hive Tyrant to give me the free strat is very nice, but I think I'm just going to have to go without that crutch. And then the Swarmlord is really nice because he fits in the corner of a terrain piece and says, hey, you can't use stratagems that you want to use without paying through the nose. And so, yeah, I've just decided that I'd rather have all One Eye and his friends than any of those 3. Yeah, I would have liked another Lictor. A 10 Termagants or 10 Hormagaunts. I really like them just for stealing an opponent's objective and being obnoxious for one turn, but could not squeeze them in either. The other alternative was to switch the list to Synaptic Nexus and get rid of the Gaunt package and the All One Eye, etc., and put in Norns instead, which is again another Sam Pope list. I'm a big fan of his lists. But what I quite like is the fact that the Carnifexes came down this week was like, I feel like this is a sign from God that we need to take All One Eye and his friends. So we did that. We did that. My matrix that I've built believes, broadly speaking, that I'll get a 5-3.
Okay.
And I'll be very happy with that, to be quite honest, given how good this event is and how the quality of play is. There's one big caveat, as I said, only lunatics do this event, so the standard's very, very high. So looking forward to it. What do you reckon, John? Have I done Invasion Fleet right, or have I done it wrong?
I mean, I can't fault Sam Pope's lists. I do think the Dak Effects Brood's really, really good.
It's so good. I am missing lethals, though, because I don't have the Hive Tyrant.
Yeah, but you've kind of... It doesn't really matter when you've got... when you're playing Invasion Fleet and you have either sustained or lethals, it doesn't matter as much, or you'll find it matters less because you can pick the right one. But also you have the 1 CP stratagem to put 2 units within Synapse range or 1 unit into one of the other things. The other benefit of the Dak Effects Brood is it is efficiently 1 unit that you can put the precision detachment rule onto, because you actually do roll a lot of 6s. So if you think you're shooting into like let's say for example you're shooting into a Space Marine unit with a character, you've got sustained off your army roll, and then you also have precision. You can nuke the character out of that unit with the Death Spitter Brood.
Makes Assassinate doable, right? Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's I don't think it's a bad shout at all. I do think it's one of those ones that actually functionally does work. So it's definitely one of those ones where I think the Dak Effects Brood minus the Hive Tyrant works in Invasion Fleet when it doesn't work in other ones. I also can't fault Sam Pope's list building. Like, I think his list was really, really, really good. And I think it's just a matter of getting the rep time to giving yourself the chance to learn it through those first couple of rounds, and then you'll be kind of good to go. You'll find 80 Termagants takes up so much board space.
I think one of the things...
Penanthropes, they're not easy to kill.
Yeah, exactly, man. -1 to hit is probably one of the best things you can give a unit, because it's I mean, the problem is obviously there's always things around anything, right? Even if it's ignores cover or whatever, like even if it's +1 armor, or there's always something else that'll solve that problem. But -1 to hit affects most of the game.
Yeah.
Whereas AP can sometimes just be, no, you've got enough stuff to get through, or -1 to wound. Well, that's also a good one. But I'm quite happy with -1 to hit.
I agree.
Yeah, there was some other considerations. One of the things that I found in practice, just generally speaking, recently, is these rupture fexes, and I think a lot of people aren't aggressive enough with them. I think you can be. Whenever I've played this list in the last 3 practice games I've had, the aggression you can play those with is just so strong, because your opponent just sees it marching towards them, and it's terrifying. It's not an exocrine. An exocrine can stay back and poke things from afar, but this thing absolutely should get in people's faces. Anything else that's interesting? Yeah, the Termagants, just learning how to use those guys again. There's a really interesting thing in the middle of the board for a lot of UKTC terrain, where there is just a terrain piece next to the middle objective, right? So you just stick a body out there, you've got the objective, your opponent kills one, obviously you take it away. The other thing you can do, and again, this is rolling the dice here, right? So this has failed me already in the test games, but you can reactive move D6 inches away, right? So reactive move, if you get more than a 2, you can actually get your entire Termagant squad an inch away from the wall.
Yep.
So if a melee unit comes out to charge you, you just go, no, you're not. I'm an inch away from the wall. You're not getting through. So that can leave them really out in the lurch. So nice little trick there, but you do have to roll higher than a 2, and you can't re-roll it. And guess who's rolled a 1 in 2 games?
Excellent.
Yeah. So no, all good. I think I'm looking forward to the event. Even the idea of moving around 80 Termagants during a 8-round event. I just thought it might be a bit counter meta. We'll see what happens.
It's a good list. It's a good list. I like it. I do think that the Tervigon with adaptive biology is ridiculous. You will just find is ridiculously tanky. 2 up save, 16 wound, 5 up feel no pain. It gets tickled. It then gets a 4 up feel no pain. It's just like it's probably as resilient as the Great Unclean one is with the enhancement in demons.
Yeah, it's not far off. It's not far off. I think it's died in one game so far, and in the other games it's just like marauded into my opponent's deployment zone.
It's OC5 as well.
It's what? Sorry.
It's OC5 as well.
Yeah, man. It causes problems. Causes problems. So yeah, looking forward to it. Can't wait. So here's a bit. So there's 7 other players, right? So let's talk about their lists because those are cool guys. These are the Tyranid lists that are going to Coventry GT. There's 5 Invasion Fleet, 1 Vanguard, 1 Crusher. If I'm to pull out a negative of the data slate, I think this is example number 1 of Invasion Fleet gaining too much, and the other detachments kind of not gaining as much. I would love to see that being more varied, in my humblest opinion. What do you reckon, John?
Yeah, I still think the internal balance of Tyranid sucks a little bit across the board. It's not ideal, and I think there could have been a lot more done in the data slate to help internal balance. Especially in singles events where it's hard to metagame an army like you would in teams, just playing monsters on the board in Invasion Fleet where you get a 5 at feel no pain is really good. And when you stack a Tyrannifex for 190 points still, T12, 16 wounds, 2 up save, 5 at feel no pain, and it can blank anything that doesn't look like it's going to hurt, that looks like it's going to hurt you, is just ridiculous. Like I think they could have done a lot more for internal diversity by doing a bit more to Tyranids than they did.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, to be fair, this data slate's only going to last 8 to maximum, like about 8 to 10 weeks or something. So hopefully there's changes already afoot. God, look at me. We've just had a data slate and I'm like, more changes. But, I think I think we're right. Like the Invasion Fleet thing it's obviously very good. I think the other detachments need to be made equally as good. And making something like, I think the Carnifex change is a nod to Crusher, and I will be taking a fun list to an event. I think it's going to be the RTT in Urchester where I am taking 6 Carnifexes in Crusher Stampede. It's just going to have a good time. Just a bit of a meme list for a bit of fun. So yeah. Some other interesting stats here, right? So 7 lists, John. 14 Tyrannifexes.
Yep. Tell me about it.
Not all of them are Rupture Fexes. I think there's 1 or 2 Acid Fexes in there.
The thing is, I think if you're taking triple Fex, I would be tempted to take one as an Acid Fex.
Yeah, me too. I've tried it actually, and you know what? The Acid Fex really disappointed.
Interesting. I just think it's one of those ones that if you don't have the Dark Effects Brood, it is a valid Overwatch target. But also, it's like if you tag it in combat, your stuff that's in combat just gets murdered. Whereas you can tag a standard Rupture Fex, and it doesn't do a lot of damage. If it then does rely on being able to see stuff outside the board. I think it
have the longest gun in history to get line of sight and stuff.
Yeah, no, I know it's got ridiculous length, ridiculous size weapon on it. To be fair,
length we were about to say, John.
No, I know. If I was going to be playing Invasion Fleet with triple Fex, I'd probably go 2 Rupture, 1 Acid Fex, just to give your opponent some pause for thought with it when it runs into the middle of the board.
See, I think Neuro Tyrant does the same jobs, really, and even in Synaptic Nexus, it's actually better. Obviously, it's handy as well because you give it Will of the
yeah, I get it, but it's also less survivable. There's a significant drop off in its survivability.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But no, I do too. But I am just curious by it. But yeah, no, I like it.
People saying that. People thinking that. Go on.
The disturbing thing for me is there's more Tyrannifexes than Exocrines.
Is what? Sorry.
The weird thing to me is that there's more Tyrannifexes than Exocrines.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think Tyrannifexes fit in every list, but I actually don't think Exocrines maybe do, because you're looking. I think one of the gaps you have in Tyranids is anti-tank, right? And that's why everyone loves this Rupture Effects, because it is that answer. Whereas Exocrine is not anti-tank unless that tank is a Rhino, and then only maybe.
Yeah, I just think exocrines keep your like if you look at the top of the meta, right? There's 12 there's 12 World Eaters, there's 9 Blood Angels. I always want an exocrine because it just mows stuff down.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong.
Like if you look at the top 3, it was World Eaters, Guard, and
CSM.
CSM. Well, two of those two of those lists hate exocrines with a passion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So it's an interesting one. I don't think there's a right or a wrong. I do.
There is one guy whose list name is "What the fuck is an exocrine?"
Nice.
So I think he was making a statement. So yeah, we've got 14 Tyrannofexes, so that's 2 in every list on average. 9 exocrines. We also have 12 lictors, so the 5 points going up didn't really make the difference.
No, still cheap.
Still cheap. Still cheap. One list had 3. Some lists have none. I think one list had none.
Mad people.
Well, it was the Crusher list because I guess his actions. Oh, hey, Bread. So it's Bread whose list is what the fuck is next?
Nice.
We then have a Crusher list that has no lictors because I think he's doing his actions with chaff, so that's fine.
Nice.
We've then got 110 Hormigans, JP, in the 7 lists, which is more than I thought we'd see.
Clean living.
Very cool. We've also got 90 Termagants. So, to be frank, though, 80 of those are my Termagants. so
Nice.
There is one other person who's taking 10. So we're about to find out, guys, who's the big brain Tyranid now? Is it the guy who's taking 80 or everyone else who has common sense and not taking barely any? And then I think this is a telling stat, John. I think this is a telling stat. So we've said there's 14 Tyrannofexes, and we've said there's 9 exocrines. If you add up all the other monsters together, there's 18, right? 2 of those are Carnifexes, and 4 of those come from one list, the Invasion Fleet list, which is, and we're going to talk about the Invasion Fleet list in a minute, which is a lot of one-offs. Mm-hmm. So I think that number actually is... say again?
Do love some one-offs.
Yeah, we do love some one-offs. So I think that number is actually artificially pushed up. And I think that's telling that... do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's telling that we are not seeing other monsters.
Yeah,
even Maleceptors. There's not that many Maleceptors going.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And then out of the 7 lists, we've got 5 Neurotyrants, which is equal to the full number of Hive Tyrants, Winged Hive Tyrants, and Swarm Lords. So really highlighting that, I think that's a really interesting one because I didn't think Neurotyrants would be that popular. But AP1, ignore covers, 2 damage is pretty strong stuff, I think, overall.
Maybe. Yeah, no, absolutely.
And I've put 18 other monsters twice because I did this in a rush. Cool. Boom. So some interesting lists that I wanted to pull out. So we've got Jack and Thistle, and he's bringing his Vanguard. So I think that might be Bread. I'm not sure. I think it might be Bread. So we've got characters here. We've got a Broodlord, a Neurotyrant, and a Winged Hive Tyrant with Neuronode, and then we've got Death Leaper as the Warlord because meme on, bro. I don't like. Right, John. How do you feel about Vanguard Onslaught? Mm-hmm. Your Warlord being Death Leaper. I'm not a fan personally.
No, I'm a fan of your Warlord being what's it called? Parasite.
Yeah, or Hidden. Is another thing to do because I think there's some armies that sometimes benefit from it. I know Imperial Knights do because they haunt my dreams. But if they kill your Warlord, they then get a 6-up Feel No Pain for the entire game or something, or a 5-up. Like it goes from a 6-up to a 5-up, I think. So I just don't think there's a benefit because you want the Death Leaper up in people's faces, giving them -1 leadership at least one turn. But yeah, they're the characters anyway. In other units, we've got a Pyrovore, we've got 10 Gene Sealers to go with the Broodlord. I have to say, playing with those, they are a lot of fun. We've got 3 Von Ryans, the new 70-point Von Ryans Leapers. We have 2 Lictors, 1 Neurolictor, and then I think this is some spicy shit, John. 6 Zoes. I imagine they go with the Neurotyrant. And then 2 times 3 Zoes. So we're just laser beaming, brain lasering people to death. We've got a Biovore, and then here's some more spice for you, John, for your more spice on your spice. 2 Harrispexes.
Nice. In Vanguard. I like it.
I actually, yeah, I mean, so I got turned on to this by Colencius again. I can't think what his actual name is now. And the fallback and charge with Harrispex is really nice. So as long as they survive the first punch, you're laughing.
Agreed.
And then you've got a Maleceptor, and of course, I think one of the VIPs or MVPs of Vanguard, a Trigon. They're just so good. They're so good. Any thoughts on that list, John?
I think it's a very different one. I think it's definitely. I'm enjoying the fact it's playing into the pick up and drop zone throat brick, because it was always something that I thought was really good. I'm interested by how it plays out. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I don't know. It's a weird one. It's kind of like it's not the style I'd play. The 2x3 zone thropes, those are the ones I don't understand. But I do really like
coming in from reserve, just generic bog standard reserve.
I just think it's one of those ones that's a lot of points for not the same output when you're also taking into the fact that you are currently highly overloading your CP already. That you can't pick up multiple ones of them, whereas things like when you put in more Vanguard Invaders, you pick up 2 of them, kind of thing. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. I really like the list. I think the list is really cool.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think what I'd like to see here, right? Because, okay, if I'm doing this and I'm going, right, I'm going to put down my Zoes turn 1, and you have my 2x3 Zoes going to blow I'm going to put blast on them and blow up your 20-man units or 10-man units of stuff. Like, I get all that. I think that's cool. I wonder what's keeping your opponent from touching these.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you've got 2 Harrispexes, yeah, absolutely. But I think you need some. I mean, the Gene Stealers will keep your opponent busy for a turn, for sure. But I wonder what's doing it the turn after. I mean, a Trigon, but then you don't want to waste it on something like that. A Trigon can score you so many points. But I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's a cool list. I like the vibe of, like, ducking and weaving, shooting, hyper legion, hyper crypt kind of vibe, but we will see. So good luck to Jack this weekend. And then we've got Steve. I don't know if you've ever played Steve. I'm going to butcher this pronunciation. Tynekin.
Nope.
You've not played him? I've played him once before, actually. Nice guy. Tyranid mainstay. Always plays Tyranid. And he is taking a very fun list in Invasion Fleet. So the reason why I pulled it out is very different to other lists you're seeing. He's got a Broodlord with Perfectly Adapted. Love that for rerolling charges turn 1. You've got a Broodlord with just vanilla. And then you've got the Neurotyrant with Alien Cunning. So you've got the redeploy. So you can put that, you can threaten different units with your Broodlord. And then you've got Battle Line, 2x10 Hormigants and 10 Termagants. And then in other units, you've got an Exocrine, 2x10 Gene Stealers to go with those Broodlords. You've got 3 Lictors, a Maleceptor, a Morlock, 3 Pyrovores in 1 unit, which please make Pyrovores great. I've got 4 of them. I want them to be good, man. And I want to buy more. I just want them to be good. 3 Raveners as well. And then an Acid Fex and a Rupture Fex. So he's got a complete variety here. We've got a bit of an all-comers list, I think, in this. I know how much you love a one of, JP, but what do you reckon here?
I think if you'd have showed me these 2 lists and asked me what detachment they are, I would have put them the opposite way around. I almost feel like the Invasion list is the Vanguard list and the Vanguard list is the Invasion list.
Yeah. Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I know. I get it. Yeah. Absolutely.
No, I think it's an interesting take on. I mean, this is the thing with Invasion Fleet, right? You can pretty much play whatever you want, and it will functionally work. So I think I definitely like that fact about it. I think
all these lists have tools. That's what I think I'm a big fan of. I think they've got tools to fix problems. I think Steve's list especially is taking cool stuff, right? He's taking stuff that's interesting. He always seems to do quite well at events, if I remember rightly, as well. So he's got a vibe going. But no, I totally get what you're saying. And this is what we discussed last week, right? I was going to do that game last week where I give you a list and you guess what detachment it is. And to be honest, it's so difficult because the list's identity is kind of lost among all the detachments because you can kind of just port it in, right?
Yeah, and I think I think there's a lot of like scalpel pieces in this list. I always just found that the Gene Stealer units in Invasion Fleet, I always disliked that they were just really slow. The lack of advance and charge is a thing. And once they're in, you can't reposition them and stuff. So I think it's really interesting. I can't wait to see how it goes for both of these lists. No, really, really interested to see how they both go.
GSC Gene Stealers are really interesting because they actually get advance and charge natively.
Oh, do they?
Isn't that lovely?
Do they get any other rules, or is it just that?
I think they get the Cult Ambush rule.
Okay, but they don't get like the reroll. The reroll ones to hit them, then potentially reroll ones to wound is like really good. Like the fact that in theory a Gene Stealer unit never misses is really big.
Yeah.
And then obviously it's like your opponent, the unit goes from being like, oh, here's a pile of strength 5 attacks that I have to sack wound. It's like here's a pile of strength 5 attacks that then also reroll ones to wound with devastating wounds. It's pretty scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Before we crack on, let's look at the chat a little bit. So Hollow 9515 taking Invasion Swarm list to this weekend to Inner GT. So let's good luck. Oh, he's taken 60 termagants, so great luck there. I look forward to seeing your list on next week on Fortnite show. Carl Staber, why take Zoes over Exos? Yeah, great question. I think it's probably just the flexibility, maybe. It's the fact you can go through walls and stuff with Zoes, and then reactive move them behind walls, perhaps. That's another thing you can do with zone throw ups that you can't do with Exos. So maybe just an idea. I mean, God knows, I'm not the guy. We've got James Ferrier-Mooney from last week. I loved JP's TED talk about Von Ryan's Leapers, but unfortunately they only got a 5 points reduction. It's a start. Also, all the other chat you had about Hive Guard and Warrior and Range Warriors. Yeah, thank you very much, James. It turns out that GW didn't care though.
No, I honestly think that the 5 points is probably enough now to make them viable.
Are you taking them, John?
Yeah. I'm probably going to take 6 of them.
Okay.
I think they are, as a 140 point unit, they move 10 inches, they have infiltrate, they're stealth. You put them behind a wall, nothing can charge them short of like a dedicated combat unit because they will mess things up. It's like 6 attacks each. It's just ridiculous number of dice. Like, sure, they are made of paper, but also they're one of those units that, because their base size is so big, and the being unit of 6 only happen to be in 2 inches of one other unit, they can conga line a decent amount. So if you're playing against something that you think you're going to struggle against, and you need to kind of play that game of, I'm just going to deny you moving, just 140 points, just put it in front of them and go, cool, go.
Very true. It's only 140. Yeah.
Because you actually have to shoot them, because if you charge them, there's still a chance they do damage to you just with the volume of attacks. I'm probably going to run 6 of them. I think if I run Vanguard, I'm probably running 6 of them just because I think it's a really it's a bit more of a self-utilization unit that Gene Stealers aren't. But we'll see. I'm looking forward to it. It's kind of one of those. My list is kind of, I can go over at the end what I'm thinking. It's a bit all over the place, but I'm quite enjoying the.
Let's save that one for next time because I think we're pushed for time at the moment.
Let's do it.
We've got Carl Staber, Zoe struggling to kill rhinos, sad face. Yep. Yeah, I mean, they either do amazing or they do nothing, right? The VO list, I always wonder what stops your opponent just face rolling to your home objective from the Doom Melon. Yeah, man, that was my problem with it. Didn't like it. And every time I take Invasion Stealers in practice games, I play triple Exorcist. yeah. I mean, Exorcist coming back into the meta is a bit of a scary one. So
that's why I've gone to Vanguard, because there's the option to protect your stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. And actually, that's the end of the show this time, guys. That's the end of the show. We got there eventually, JP. Like, I mean, we've been on quite a journey this evening, but we got there. So yeah, good luck to everyone at the Coventry GT this weekend and at GTs around the world. I'm sure if I do well, I'll do a tournament report, and if I don't, I'll pretend like I never said this and that I wasn't going to intend to do a tournament report at all. But hopefully we do okay out the back of it. Yeah, I will catch you guys later. See you later. Goodbye.
See ya.